On November 1st, 2015, Matt Harvey took the mound for the biggest start of his life. The surprising Mets were in their first World Series since 2000 and looking for their first title since 1986. Down 3-1 in the series, they turned to their ace to extend the magical season, at least for one more game. Mets fans already know what's coming, but before we get into the most impactful, memorable, and tragic game of his career, we have to examine what made Matt Harvey the Dark Knight. For as long as he played baseball, Matt Harvey's expectations on the mound were sky high. The 6'4" righty from Connecticut had an electric mid-90s fastball, a pitch that got him drafted in the 3rd round out of high school before he chose to pitch at UNC. The Mets selected him with their 7th overall pick in 2010, ahead of guys like Chris Sale, Christian Yelich, and future teammates Noah Syndergaard and Jacob deGrom. The Mets were trying to play it fairly conservatively with Harvey's development, but he forced their hand by just his 2nd pro season. As you guys know, the Mets never fail to disappoint. They entered the All-Star break just 5 games out of the division and 2 games out of the wild card. They proceeded to lose 11 of their next 12, sending the organization into panic mode.
The Mets are 12-30 in their last 42 games. This team has reached a low point that is unbelievable.
On July 26, 2012, Matt Harvey took the ball for the Mets in an effort to stop the bleeding. He did his job and then some, striking out 11 Diamondbacks and going 2 for 2 at the plate, leading the Mets to just their 2nd victory in 18 days. He was the first player in modern history to record double-digit strikeouts and 2 hits in a debut, and his 11 debut punchouts were a Mets record. Harvey's presence seemingly did stop the bleeding, but only temporarily, and even though he was great for the rest of the year, the Mets completely dropped off in August and September, finishing 14 games under 500. At the start of the season, the rotation was led by Johan Santana and R.A. Dickey. Santana's legendary no-hitter effectively ended his career, and Dickey was traded just a month after winning the NL Cy Young Award. With Zach Wheeler, Syndergaard, and deGrom set to emerge in the coming years, Matt Harvey was the bridge, centerpiece, superstar, and ace of the Mets team of the future.
Guys, you're hearing this chant right now? It's Harvey's better. Pretty creative.
I want to know how they came up with that and transmitted that to everybody. Yes, it's pretty good.
Matt Harvey was the biggest name in New York sports in 2013. Derek Jeter was hurt all year, the Giants and Jets both sucked, and the Yankees were mediocre and boring besides Mariano Rivera's retirement tour. The only other real candidate is Melo, who led the Knicks to their best season in over a decade. But I don't think I can overstate just how big Harvey was in New York in 2013. He struck out 10 in 7 shutout innings in his first of 4 straight pitching victories to start the year. After that 4th win, Sports Illustrated published an iconic cover of Harvey, simply titled The Dark Knight of Gotham. Harvey was named the NL Pitcher of the Month for April thanks to his red-hot start, but he saved his best start of the year till May. At home against the White Sox, pitching through a bloody nose, Matt Harvey spun a gem. He got the first 20 batters he faced out, struck out 12 Southsiders, and didn't allow a run in 9 nearly perfect innings. The only base runner to reach first base was Alex Rios, who just barely beat out an infield single in the 7th. Even then, Harvey didn't pick up the win, since the Mets were also shut out through the 9th. He only needed 105 pitches to get through 9. I don't think it would have been crazy to see him in the 10th, but the Mets made the smart decision and pulled him, winning on a walk-off by Mike Baxter. He showed his toughness that day, but more than anything else, he continued to prove that he was a dominant pitcher. Later in the month, Harvey struck out 10 Yankees in 8 innings of 1-run ball, which marked his 11th straight start of the year, pitching at least into the 6th inning. He then took another no-hitter into the 7th against the Braves in June, a game where he set a new career high with 13 strikeouts. The ultimate culmination of his excellence and superstardom came on July 16th. The Dark Knight took the Citi Field mound for the National League All-Stars, starting the game in front of a raucous Gotham crowd. And he showed up in front of his home fans and the rest of the country. He sat down Miggy, who was in the midst of his best Hall of Fame season, as well as Jose Bautista and Adam Jones, going 2 scoreless innings against the best of the best. This was the peak of his first full season. On that night in July, New York and the baseball world celebrated the final days of Mariano Rivera's career, and it felt like Harvey's performance solidified him as the next great baseball star of New York. He threw his first complete game shutout against the Rockies on August 7th, and was on pace for about 230 innings with an ERA and FIP both hovering around 2. But after his August 24th start against the Tigers, he was diagnosed with a partial tear in his UCL, ending his incredible season just as quickly as it came on. Despite missing his last 7 starts, he finished 4th in a stacked Cy Young ballot, trailing only Clayton Kershaw, Adam Wainwright, and Jose Fernandez. Tommy John surgery and rehab sidelined him for the entire 2014 season. Although he pushed heavily to get back on the field by September, the Mets were out of contention, so they took the cautious approach. But even with him off the field, he wasn't completely out of the spotlight. A brawl at a New York club between members of Matt's group and another group were a source of controversy. Harvey also continued making appearances at Knicks and Rangers games, always with a new model on his shoulder, and was frequently spotted partying at clubs and bars. His lifestyle of flashy cars and public appearances with models only grew his stardom. As much as he was the Dark Knight on the mound, he was a Bruce Wayne level playboy off the field. He even once said that he wanted to live up to his idol, Derek Jeter, in terms of his love life. Maybe the funniest quote-unquote controversy of his was when he posted a pic of himself flipping the bird towards the camera on the 6-month anniversary of his surgery. He quickly deleted the photo and then his entire Twitter account. But again, every media outlet had to write a think piece about his post. Besides those few extremely minor hiccups, Harvey's main focus was getting back on the mound to start 2015. And when he did, he barely missed a beat. Harvey won his first 5 starts of the year, including coming within 1 out of a complete game against the Yankees. He threw 7 shutout innings against the Cubs on May 13th, following that up with 8 shutout innings against the Cardinals in his very next start. On the trade deadline, Harvey matched up against the Nationals, who were 3 games up on the Mets for the division. It was his 4th start against DC on the year. He'd gotten at least 6 innings and allowed 2 or less earned in each of his first 3, and he continued with that trend, taking a perfect game into the 6th inning and dominating the Nationals lineup for most of the night. Although he couldn't finish out the 8th scoreless, Wilmer Flores picked up his ace to solidify the game as the Wilmer Flores game.
Deep left center field. It's out of here! Flores ends it with a home run! The Mets win it 2-1 in 12.
The win brought the Mets within 2 games of the division, and the team was now 3-1 against Washington in games where Harvey started. Harvey dominated the Nats for a reason. Bryce Harper was in the midst of what was the best offensive season since 04 Barry Bonds. It felt like nobody could get him out that year. Nobody except for Harvey. After this start, Bryce Harper was 0 for 17 with just 3 walks and 7 strikeouts in his career against Harvey. Harvey completely shut him down, and Harper knew it. I keep saying it, I've said it a million times. He's gonna be Cy Young one day, and everybody knows that. He's one of the toughest at-bats I've ever had. And Harper wasn't alone in praising the righty.
I think that he has more talent than I do, and he has better chances to do better than I did. And the best it can be could be better than I was.
Harvey's trade deadline performance, paired with the team's trade for Yoenis Cespedes, propelled the Mets and Nationals in opposite directions. That game started a brutal 4-13 stretch for DC, and a red-hot second half in Queens, resulting in a comfortable 7-game victory for the Mets' first division title since Pedro was still on the team. Harvey was fantastic down the stretch, allowing just 1 run in 4 August starts and finishing the regular season with a 2.71 ERA. But his second half wasn't without controversy. Harvey's agent and renowned poet, Scott Boras,
they're not living in the gated community of Playoffville,
said that Harvey should be limited to 180 innings on the year. The Mets' plan was to have Harvey throw around 190 innings in the regular season and then pitch in the postseason. At first, it seemed like Harvey was siding with his agent.
I hired Dr. Andrews to do my surgery, and I hired Scott for a reason, and that's to prolong my career and, put me in the best possible position.
But after heavy backlash from fans and the media, he wrote a short Players Tribune article saying that he will be pitching in October.
Hi, my name is Kofi Boa. You may know me for my work at Secret Base, or know me as the man with the random fandoms, and one of those is the New York Mets. As a Mets fan born in 1995, I hadn't seen much success with my own two eyes. At 5 years old, I was too early to comprehend the Subway Series, so the first Mets run I was able to see with my eyes only was the 2006 run that really introduced me to sports pain. I felt the pure ups and downs of taking the Cardinals to a 7-game series, watching Endy Chavez make the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life against Scott Rowland, while also being able to double off Jim Edmonds in the process. This saved the game and the season for us in the top of the 6th, only for us to completely blow it in the top of the 9th to a 23-year-old Yadier Molina, who hit one of the clutchest home runs of all time. What happened next was a new series of punches to my newly sentient Mets fandom. Watching the Cardinals beat the Tigers in 5, knowing that could have been us. Watching the Mets not make a playoffs for the rest of my middle school, high school, and all the way till my junior year of college. 2015. When I think of Matt Harvey, I think about hope. I think about the 2013 season where he started the All-Star game in Citi Field, where he struck out 3 batters in 2 innings of work. Missing out on the 2014 season due to surgery gave me and a lot of Mets fans so much to be nervous about. This was our symbol of hope, our signal in the sky that was sent to Queens to turn the franchise around. Sidelined for the whole season with no guarantee if he'll be back to normal in 2015. Having him come back to a rotation that already had Rookie of the Year phenom Jacob deGrom meant that expectations were super high in the regular season, and with the Mets winning the division, how could this not be the year? In the NLDS, it was awesome seeing deGrom strike out 13 batters in 7 innings without giving up a run in Game 1 against Clayton frickin' Kershaw. But it was just as awesome in my eyes seeing Matt Harvey take care of business in Game 3, buckling down after giving up 3 runs in the second to strike out 7 batters in 5 innings and lead the Mets to a pivotal win. With another deGrom masterclass in Game 5, the Mets turned it up a notch to sweep the Cubs and win the National League pennant. Harvey outdueling John Lester in Game 1 set the tone, and everyone else took care of business. Oh, this is absolutely the year. 6 days later, we got reminded of what it's like to be a Mets fan. I think of Harvey giving up an inside-the-park home run to Alcides Escobar in the first inning, but buckling down until the 6th and leaving the game while it was still a 3-3 tie that the Mets then lost in 14 innings. With the game being decided a full 8 innings after his departure, Matt Harvey did what he had done all postseason, giving his team a great chance to win. A Johnny Cueto masterclass in Game 2 paired with deGrom's first postseason loss, which came from a rally that came out of nowhere, honestly. As a Mets fan, going down 0-2 was really shocking, especially for a team that just swept the Cubs and just played their 2 best pitchers, only for them to not win the game. So it's perfectly understandable why in Game 5, all eyes were on Matt Harvey. He was so dominant in the first 8 innings, you forgot that we were down 3-1 in the World Series, facing elimination. The 4th and 5th inning, where all of the outs recorded were strikeouts, stood out to me the most. He was so good that the Mets had only 1 run at the time, but you felt that with the way he's been pitching, that was all you were going to need.
When you hear the name Matt Harvey, what's the first single moment that you think of?
2015 World Series when he came out for the 9th inning, 100%.
It felt like Matt Harvey was the insurance that game.
I was at the game with my dad, and we were like, Harvey better come out for the 9th. We could see into the dugout, saw he was like talking to Terry. We were like, he's coming out for the 9th. And we were pumped. I was super excited.
You think about going out there for the 9th in Game 5 of 2015, and the place was just like it was going to explode. I was there. It was.
Now you can see him sprint out there to the mound. See if he can settle himself.
With the season on the line, Terry Collins decided to keep Matt Harvey in, and Mets pain sprang eternal.
You wanted that in that moment. It didn't work out.
The 0-1. That's in the air to left.
I think Terry messed up more by not having anybody ready as soon as Harvey put a guy on base.
One run scores in the top of the second house.
I think if you make that switch 1 batter earlier, we could talk about Game 5 as the peak of Matt Harvey, having a win in the World Series, but the leash probably extended, I'd say, 1 batter too long.
And yes, it's easy to blame the whole game on Terry Collins for his decision, but this was an overall team choke job by the Mets.
Broken back, cut off by right, out, throw home, World tie
In the previous 3 losses, 2 of them were blown leads in the 8th inning or later. I totally understand why Terry Collins decided to trust Matt Harvey instead of his bullpen with only 3 more outs to go. Matt Harvey was our dark knight. He was the symbol of Mets' hope, and riding or dying with that symbol is a very understandable thing. If Matt Harvey wins this game, it's regarded as an all-time series performance, even if the Mets lost in 6 or 7 games. But this loss hurt way more after the fact, when we all realized that we would never see this Matt Harvey again. He was never the same player, and that was the most painful outcome, the slow decline of seeing our symbol crumble before our very eyes.
Matt Harvey threw 216 innings in the 2015 regular and postseason, nearly 40 more than his camp wanted him to. He put his future on the line for the chance to win it all with the Mets, and his arm paid the price. It was immediately apparent that Harvey wasn't as sharp in 2016. His ERA sat in the high 4s for most of the year, he only pitched into the 7th inning twice, and he only struck out 7 batters or more 3 times all year. But most concerning, his fastball velocity was down over a full mile per hour. Bryce Harper finally got a hit off of Harvey on May 19th, which was easily Harvey's worst career start at the time. He allowed 9 runs and walked off the mound after getting just 8 outs, hearing boos on his trip back to the dugout. The Mets defense was horrible that day, but Harvey just didn't have the same strikeout stuff that he did the year before. After a brutal 4th of July start in Miami, it was announced that Harvey would undergo surgery to correct thoracic outlet syndrome. TOS is notorious for killing careers of pitchers. Alex Cobb, Kenny Rogers, Matt Harrison, and Daniel Bard are the few guys who've had success after the surgery. There's a laundry list of pretty good pitchers who either never pitched again or were never effective again after the surgery, including Sean Markham, Phil Hughes, Tyson Ross, Chris Carpenter, and unfortunately, Matt Harvey. To those with an untrained eye, it probably looked like Harvey was back through 4 starts in 2017, but even though his ERA was low, the peripherals just weren't good.
I think I was more excited about the idea of Matt Harvey being back, but in actuality, he never was.
He allowed 5 homers and only struck out 17 batters in 25 1/3 innings through those starts, and it didn't take long for that ERA to regress. It ballooned from 2.84 to an astonishing 5.14 by the time he exited his 6th start. Between that and his 7th start, the Mets suspended Harvey for 3 games after he missed a Saturday day game.
He gave them super easy, great catchy headlines, like when he didn't show up to a game and they didn't know where he was, or partying. Like, he gave the easiest headlines of all time, so he didn't make it any better for himself.
He was reportedly out partying until 4 a.m. the night before and played a round of golf in the morning before texting manager Terry Collins that he was having migraines and was too sick to attend the game. This was a pretty big tipping point for how Harvey was perceived by the team and by the fans. When he was a young and successful kid, he could stay out and party without any real criticism. But when you're struggling as one of the longest tenured players on the team that's also struggling, it is not a good look to have your clubbing habits affect how you perform. In June, he fractured his scapula. When he got back in September, he was even worse than before, and he closed the year out with an ERA approaching 7. The Mets were a 70-win team. Harvey and the Mets' 2015 dominance felt like ancient history. 2018 wasn't any better. Harvey's first start was pretty good, but then he got shelled in his next 3, earning a demotion to the bullpen. He allowed runs in 3 of his 4 relief appearances, including a shelling at the hands of the Braves on May 3rd. The very next day, he was designated for assignment, not even 3 years after being the ace of a pennant-winning team. The Reds picked him up as a starter for the rest of the year, and he wasn't quite as bad, but nowhere near effective. As a result, the Angels signed him to a 1-year, $11 million contract for 2019. He proceeded to have the worst season of his career, and the Angels cut bait just a week after the All-Star break. The A's signed him to their AAA team, where he struggled for the rest of the year. Harvey found his way to Kansas City during the shortened 2020, where he allowed 15 runs and an astounding 27 hits in 11 2/3 innings. Somehow, he made the Orioles team in spring of 2021. I'd like to think that the O's tried recapturing some of that magic from early in his career, but it's more likely that they wanted a cheap name to sell a few tickets and t-shirts during a season of tanking. And if that was the case, Harvey did a really good job. He pitched in the Orioles minor league system in 2022, but was suspended 60 games after testifying that he provided pills to Tyler Skaggs from Eric Kay in the months leading up to his death. He also admitted to extensive cocaine usage during his time in New York and LA, which recontextualizes his bloody nose games and his reputation as a partier. In hindsight, a lot of the narrative surrounding Harvey's career is that drug usage and poor work ethic led to his downfall. I'm not here to argue that those things didn't hurt him, but it's clear to me that the thoracic outlet syndrome is what did him in. The splits from before and after his TOS symptoms speak for themselves. He was just 27 years old, and the stuff in command he had in his mid-20s never returned. After making 2 starts for Team Italy in the 2023 WBC, Matt Harvey announced his retirement in May. Harvey only really had 2.5 great seasons, and then about a half dozen disastrous years. But baseball fans, especially Mets fans, still remember the few years when he was on top of the world.